mentioned before that one of the things I've been real lucky to be able to do is work with such good players like yourself. Yeah, and for a long time, and that's been a fortunate part of my career is that I get to be around a lot of talented people and learn from them and listen to them, especially when you're younger. But just it's not always the case. Like first of all, we can say nobody's perfect, but would it be fair to say that certain people are better than others? And in that case, what are some things you do to work with imperfect players?
Right.
Maybe not the most talented or not the most skilled, or maybe they're just in the process of developing. They're not there yet.
They might be put in a situation they're not familiar with or something. Maybe they said yes to the wrong gig. I don't know.
But I think we've I could personally say I'm sure people had to deal with, when I was coming up, had to deal with that with me. Yeah. There was a point where maybe and I still can beat the imperfect player on a gig.
I'm sure. Yeah, I know. I'm guilty of that.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I feel that all the time when I play with you.
Yeah. I think it's always important to try to. I think we mentioned this earlier. Like, get the best out of the people you're working with. And if somebody's struggling and having a tough go, like, you want to figure out how you could play something that helps them to either find their place or makes them sound better, instead of fighting them like, hey man, that's not grooving. This is, instead of fighting them on something that doesn't feel good, how can I change my playing to make this situation, even if like that if this certain player played something differently, it would make everything better, and you wouldn't have to struggle with this problem.
Yeah.
It's always a better decision to be like, okay, how can I make this happen? That a lot of times that's a conversation you're having in your head on the gig and not getting.
Yeah, or it's a conversation that secretly a lot of musicians are having with their eyes, of those that are kind of seeing what's going on and going like, all right, so we all get this. We don't need to say it, right. But I think overall, because there's been the times when I was cocky and I was young, it's like, that guy sucks. If only he wasn't on the gig. But the truth of the matter is, being a jerk is not going to solve anything. It's not going to make the music any better. It's not going to make them play better, and it's only going to make you look like a jerk. The things we learn as we get older.
Absolutely. But some of those players when you're young that you think that of turn into some of the best players you've ever heard, and you're just totally. Oh my gosh, they put in the work, and now I feel like a jerk.
Yeah, everybody has the ability to get better, but even on
I hope they don't remember when I shined them on that gig or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes it's a matter of rather than getting upset about it, going all right, well, what do I have to do to make this person sound good right now? So maybe it's finding things that they're good at, finding their wheelhouse and trying to support it, and just creating a good general vibe and playing in a way just like when you're playing with good players, play in a way that flatters that person and makes them feel good. No one should go home feeling I suck. I'm not the Mr. Positive guy that's going oh, I'm so lucky to be doing this every day. It's I'm very lucky to be doing this every day, but I've also worked really hard, and so have my colleagues, and so is anybody that loves music. We do get to do something really awesome, but sometimes when you have such a bad if you have a bad attitude towards that bad person on a gig, that can ruin music for them, because I've definitely had people ruin music for me on a lot of days. So I tried to make it a habit, I don't want to put a bad taste in anyone's mouth. There's time and place to say things.
Yeah, and it's really an opportunity for you to grow as a player, and for you to figure out how. In those situations, figuring out how to fix it can be a real. It can be a real conundrum of how do I work around this? And when you figure out that answer, then you have that in your playbook. Okay, because that situation might come up again, and it just develops you into an even better player. And also, it could also really educate you on what you might be doing wrong. Maybe I helped create that situation, or
or at least I'm not. Am I making it any better right now? Am I doing anything to improve it? And sometimes there's just those gigs too where it's just all right, in 3 minutes, we're done with this song, we're on to the next debacle, and in 1 hour we're out of this gig, and then we're on to the next one, but not showing your true color, showing how you're feeling. It's you can't have a bad taste in your mouth about it, because even on the good gigs sometimes, I played with some of the some extremely famous players that we all have our downfalls, and we all have the things we can't do and our vulnerabilities as musicians. And
Right.
like even when you're backing up those guys, you want to highlight their good things and not make people feel, music's so already vulnerable enough. Like you're already vulnerable putting yourself out there as it is.
Yeah.
That like you don't want to make anything ever awkward or make someone not feel safe. So I think what makes a good band sometimes in a good rhythm section, and like what we try to do all the time, is because, like, let's be real, like we're constantly crashing and burning. Like, I wouldn't actually, maybe I would say crashing and burning, but we're constantly making mistakes. Things are not going as planned, but
Mistakes are always happening.
Yeah, and what we've done is two things. One, we've developed skills to play ourselves out of a situation as listeners, because we're listening. We're able to identify what needs to happen to fix things, to put the train back on the tracks real quick, and to not just like stop and go, all right, that's that. Like, it's like,
Right,
we have to get back on, and that's what takes the teamwork.
And that's also
listening.
like a danger in the improvisational playing we're talking about, and stuff that we do a lot, is when you're playing in that kind of way, you open yourself up to a lot of mistakes. But how you react to those mistakes could be the difference in it being a mistake or it being a magical moment.
Oh yeah, totally. Some of the
missteps, you're like, oh my gosh, I just found myself in this cool place I didn't know existed in this song, but through who's ever misstep, we got into a space that is really rewarding for everybody. So
totally.
So you can't be afraid of making mistakes. It could be a great thing. It's not a thing to look down on anybody on.
Yeah, and sometimes you like, even though we all make the stupid mistakes, and you learn to laugh it off. Like you literally learn to like laugh it off because it's going to happen again.
And in these days, it's like everything's on YouTube, so all the mistakes you've ever made, you could find them if you search hard enough.
Yeah, you could live them for the rest of your life. And I think as a rhythm section, one of the things that I like about playing with you, and that we've developed with each other, is like we try to have this situation to where we can take some chances, or we can, even just casually make a mistake. So we can try something and it can be wrong, or we can just make a simple little mistake and no one's looking at each other going, dude, like, it's a matter of like, like it's gonna happen. So like part of having a band or being on any gig is being able to allow yourself and others to make mistakes. Sometimes you stumble on greatness. Sometimes it just sounds bad. But if you're listening and you're constantly fixing things, to the best of your ability, and you're being humble and you're being honest, then let it go. Like move on to the next thing.
It's such a fun space to be in a musical situation like that, where there is that give and take, and things can happen, rather than we've rehearsed this 20 million times and we're playing exactly the same notes and everybody's up there just playing their part they know how to do, and then you lose that thing that to me makes it fun to play music and fun to listen to music.
Have a little danger.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to hear the album every time I go see a band. I got the CD. I want to hear it.
Yeah, but even like in a band dynamic situation too, if you're in a like pop gig or somewhere, you're playing like it's a craft gig, like you're where you're playing the same part every night. Like I think it's important to make sure that everybody in the band is on a point that like you don't have to be perfect every night. You're allowed to make a mistake, like as long as your head's in the game, and like that's why they call them honest mistakes,
right?
And so like I think honest mistakes are cool, like and you learn, especially though if it's someone that maybe is less than perfect or maybe just isn't there yet. Make it a practice and find ways that you can, maybe make them play better, make them feel better, but most of all, not ever put a bad taste about music in their mouth. That's not fair. I would never want anyone doing that to me. So, being respectful, and have a little humility, and we're all gonna make plenty of mistakes. Check YouTube. I'm all over the place.
He is.